Dear brothers and sisters, today we are going to delve into the depths of an expression which, although frequently uttered, conceals an often underestimated significance. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah, translated as there is no strength and power except in Allah. This phrase, far from being a simple invocation among others, constitutes a true spiritual pillar. It is a constant reminder of divine sovereignty, offering each believer an infinite source of wisdom, strength, and peace, both materially and spiritually. Through this simple formula, profound truths are hidden which, when meditated on and lived with sincerity, can transform our daily lives and strengthen our faith. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah teaches us an essential lesson. All the strengths and abilities we believe we possess are in reality only a gift from Allah. By becoming aware of this truth, we strengthen our faith while cultivating humility. We thus free ourselves from the chains of pride and the illusion of total control over our lives. This formula invites us to accept a simple but powerful reality. Without divine will, none of our efforts or projects can succeed. It is in this submission to the will of Allah that true serenity resides. But what exactly are the benefits of this invocation? Why is it considered a treasure in the eyes of Allah? What tangible effects does it bring to our daily lives? How does this formula help us get through life's trials, maintain our inner peace, and strengthen our bond with the Creator? This is what we will explore together today, highlighting 7 benefits of this spiritually powerful formula. By listening attentively to what follows, prepare yourself to discover a new dimension of this invocation and to grasp its full depth. The first benefit of La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah lies in the recognition of our total dependence on Allah. One of the essential foundations of the Islamic faith is this awareness of the omnipotence of Allah and His absolute sovereignty. This formula plays a key role in expressing this fundamental truth. Each time we say these words, we affirm that no matter our efforts or our apparent abilities, we remain totally subject to divine will. This awareness will nourish in us a deep feeling of humility. It distances us from the illusion of total control and invites us to submit to divine will. By meditating on the meaning of La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah, we understand that although we have the ability to plan, work, and strive, we are limited in our actions. Without Allah's permission, none of our actions, no matter how noble, could be accomplished. This does not mean that Islam encourages inaction or passivity. On the contrary, He exhorts us to be diligent and perseverant. However, this formula reminds us that although the effort is within our control, the results depend entirely on Allah. This recognition of our total dependence on Him teaches us an important lesson in humility. The success we experience is never the fruit of our strength alone, but results from divine benevolence. Likewise, in the face of trials or failures, La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah encourages us to put things into perspective and keep our faith intact. The trials we go through, however difficult they may be, are a means by which Allah guides us and purifies us. This formula helps us to accept life's setbacks with serenity, reminding us that each trial has a divine wisdom that we cannot always perceive immediately. Furthermore, this act of gratitude to Allah frees us from fear and despair. A person who relies only on their own strength will quickly find themselves overwhelmed by uncertainty and anxiety when faced with life's challenges. On the other hand, the one who invokes La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah finds in these words a source of inner peace, because he remembers that the help, protection, and strength he seeks comes only from Allah, which allows him to maintain his calm and his faith, even in the darkest moments. Finally, this formula brings us closer to Allah. In moments of vulnerability or doubt, say La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah strengthens our trust in Him and nourishes our faith in His ability to give us assistance and support. It is a way of renewing our faith and reminding us that, even when everything seems out of control, Allah remains the master of the heavens and the earth, and that He is always there to help us. In short, La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah is much more than a simple invocation of dhikr. It is a constant reminder of our absolute dependence on Allah. It guides us towards humility, patience, and total trust in the divine will, allowing us to navigate with serenity through the vicissitudes of life. It embodies humility, strengthens patience, and invites believers to refocus on unwavering trust in Allah, whatever the circumstances of life. Second benefit, protection against trials, and relief from difficulties. One of the most remarkable benefits of the formula, La Hawla wa la Quwwata illa Billah, lies in its ability to offer spiritual protection and relief from the trials we encounter on a daily basis. In the prophetic tradition, this formula is described as a powerful remedy for the anxiety and concerns that assail the human soul. When a believer faces trials, it is natural to experience fear, worry, and uncertainty. These emotions can be paralyzing and often lead us away from the fundamental truth. Everything is in Allah's hands. We are in His infinite will and wisdom. The recitation of La Hawla wa la Quwwata illa Billah in such moments serves as a protective shield. It acts as a comforting reminder that nothing happens without Allah's permission, and that no trial, no matter how great, can overtake us without it being part of divine decree. This deep awareness soothes the heart and restores the strength necessary to face difficulties with patience and resilience. It is then possible to put the challenges into perspective and approach them from a perspective of faith. By reciting this formula regularly, the believer places himself under divine protection. He recognizes that only Allah has the power to repel evil and grant ease, even in the most trying times. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah thus becomes a spiritual refuge, an anchor point in the face of the uncertainty and torment of this world. We remember that even if we don't immediately understand why a trial arises, it is part of God's plan. Allah, in His infinite wisdom, can transform it into a blessing in disguise, a means of purification, or an opportunity for spiritual elevation. In addition, this formula teaches us patience and strengthens our trust in the wisdom of Allah. It reminds us that certain trials, although difficult and sometimes incomprehensible, have a specific purpose, known only to Allah. This reminder encourages us to persevere, convinced that our Lord never leaves His servants without support. This unwavering faith is a remedy for anguish and despair. It helps us understand that even in our moments of weakness, divine help is always near and within reach. The repetition of La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah also calms the mind, detaching us from excessive concerns and unnecessary fears. We are invited to face difficulties with deep certainty. Whatever the situation, Allah is our protector. He watches over us, and He is the only one who has control over everything. This formula therefore becomes a true spiritual shield, enveloping the believer in an inner peace that resists the storms of life. In summary, La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah is not just a spoken word, but a refuge and a source of comfort. It offers continuous protection against the trials of life and allows you to find inner peace, even in the heart of storms. It is a powerful tool for anyone seeking to face life's challenges with serenity, to remember that everything is under Allah's control, and to develop a patience that draws us closer to Him. Third benefit, a treasure from paradise. One of the most fascinating aspects of the formula, La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah, lies in the recognition of its exceptional spiritual value. This formula is not just an ordinary dhikr, but a real treasure, rich in deep meanings and blessings for those who pronounce it sincerely. The Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, said to his companion Abdullah ibn Qais, "O Abdullah ibn Qais, should I show you one of the treasures of paradise? It is about La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah." This saying highlights the immense value of this formula in the eyes of Allah and underlines how much it is prized in the afterlife. But why is this formula considered a heavenly treasure? The answer lies in its deep meaning and its ability to strengthen faith in Allah. By pronouncing La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah, the believer testifies to his conviction that all forces and all powers, in this world and in the afterlife, depend only on divine will. This awareness, which highlights the uniqueness and omnipotence of Allah, elevates the believer to a higher spiritual rank and brings him closer to his Creator. Reciting this formula is a simple act of worship, but one of great spiritual power. It testifies to humility and total submission to the will of Allah, and it is in this submission that the divine reward lies. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah thus becomes a precious key, opening the way to infinite blessings, both in this world and in the afterlife. It encourages the recognition that all our strengths and all our actions are only manifestations of the will of Allah, and that he is the only one who holds the ultimate power. Although this formula may seem simple, it carries within it a spiritual richness that surpasses human understanding. Its power lies in its ability to purify the believer's heart, strengthen his faith, and grant him immense rewards in the afterlife. This is why it is considered a treasure of paradise, a precious pearl which, when spoken with sincerity and understanding, becomes an inexhaustible source of blessings. In conclusion, well, La Hawla wala Quwwata illa Billah is a simple formula to recite. Its spiritual value and its reward in the afterlife are infinitely great. It is a powerful act of worship, a priceless treasure that brings us closer to Allah and assures us of divine blessings for eternity. Every time the believer pronounces La Hawla wala Quwwata illa Billah, he forges a stronger bond with Allah, placing himself under divine protection and submitting to his infinite mercy. This formula reminds us that dhikr is not simply a repetition of words, but a profound spiritual act aimed at uplifting our soul and strengthening our relationship with Allah. This bond is a source of strength and inner tranquility, preparing the believer not only to face the challenges of life, but also to obtain eternal rewards in the afterlife. Fourth benefit, a source of inner strength and peace. One of the most profound benefits of La Hawla wala Quwwata illa Billah is its ability to offer the believer inexhaustible inner strength and deep peace, essential in the face of the challenges of this world. In a world where trials, doubts, and moments of crisis are inevitable, this formula acts as a spiritual refuge, helping us find serenity. Recite La Hawla wala Quwwata illa Billah allows the believer to refocus and tap into a strength that exceeds human capabilities. Remembering that all strength and ability comes from Allah, he realizes that he is never alone. Whatever the difficulty, he can rely on divine power, which gives him unshakable confidence, an assurance that only faith can offer. The formula also helps us accept that all situations in life, whether positive or negative, are under the absolute control of Allah. This awareness helps us cultivate deep inner peace. When the believer repeats La Hawla wala Quwwata illa Billah, he detaches himself from the fear of the unknown and the anxiety linked to uncertainty. He remembers that even in the darkest times, Allah is present and has the power to change any situation. This comforting thought provides a feeling of security and tranquility. Reciting this formula regularly helps manage stress and negative emotions. In moments of panic or despair, the words of La Hawla wala Quwwata illa Billah soothe the heart and help the believer regain calm. This reminder helps us understand that strength does not come from our limited abilities, but from the immense power of Allah. This allows us to approach situations with a positive attitude and renewed faith, even in the face of the most difficult challenges. By reciting this formula, the believer develops a more intimate relationship with Allah, learning to trust in Him and surrender to His wisdom. This process strengthens faith, and promotes a state of mental and emotional serenity. Knowing that we depend on the infinite power of Allah helps us to face trials with patience and dignity, and to remain steadfast in the face of adversities. In summary, La Hawla wala Quwwata illa Billah is more than just a reminder. It is a powerful source of inner strength and peace. It teaches us that, even when we reach our human limits, we have access to a much greater force, that of Allah. Fifth benefit, strengthening of faith. The recitation of La Hawla wala Quwwata illa Billah plays an essential role in strengthening the faith of the believer. Each time this formula is pronounced, it reminds the believer that everything in this life depends on the will and power of Allah. This awareness nourishes a solid faith, because it is based on the recognition of the absolute sovereignty of Allah, a fundamental principle of Islam. Reciting this formula reaffirms the believer's total dependence on Allah, an acceptance that everything that happens, whether perceived as positive or negative, arises from divine wisdom. This acceptance is an integral part of faith, encouraging the believer to rely on Allah with confidence, without despair or hesitation. Thus, this dhikr becomes a constant reminder that life with its ups and downs is a test, and that only Allah holds the power to change or maintain situations. Additionally, recite La Hawla wala Quwwata illa Billah protects the believer from arrogance and presumption. He realizes that his achievements are not only the fruit of his intelligence or his personal efforts, but above all of the divine blessings granted by Allah. This awareness nourishes humility and brings the believer closer to his Lord, allowing him to give thanks to him and rely on him in all circumstances. By cultivating recognition of Allah's blessings and relying on him in all circumstances, reciting this formula strengthens Iman and helps develop a deeper and more sincere faith. It reminds us that the true source of all strength is Allah, and this understanding brings the believer closer to their Creator, increasing their faith and gratitude to Him. The recitation of La Hawla wa la Quwwata illa Billah is therefore a powerful means of dispelling anxiety and despair. When a believer is faced with difficulties or situations beyond his understanding, anxiety and fear can easily take over his mind. However, this formula acts as a soothing balm, reminding us that all power and strength comes from Allah alone. This reminder dispels the weight of concerns and lightens the heart of the believer, who realizes that he is not alone in his trials. He can trust in Allah, knowing that He alone has the power to transform any situation. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah reminds us that, even in moments of doubt and suffering, nothing is permanent. The realization that any situation, no matter how difficult, is under Allah's control brings a deep sense of inner peace. This dhikr reaffirms that trials, although they can be trying, are never insurmountable when you place your trust in Allah. By reciting this formula sincerely, the believer finds comfort and relief, as he remembers that Allah's help and strength are always at hand. Seventh benefit, facilitating tasks. Another benefit of La Hawla wa la Quwwata illa Billah is its ability to make tasks easier and projects more manageable, even those that seem beyond human capabilities. Whether in work, personal life, or even in the spiritual sphere, it is common to find yourself facing challenges that create a feeling of doubt or pressure. At these times, reciting this formula becomes a means of seeking divine assistance and benefiting from Allah's guidance. Pronounce La Hawla wa la Quwwata illa Billah before undertaking a difficult task, whether physical, mental, or spiritual, is a way of remembering that only Allah has the power to facilitate the accomplishment of this task and grant success. This recognition that all success depends on divine strength allows the believer to remain humble and submit to the will of Allah. By pronouncing this formula, the believer expresses his submission to Allah, while having the certainty that his Lord is in control. This allows him to approach each task with newfound serenity, an open mind, and a positive attitude. Aware that true support comes from Allah, he engages in his projects with renewed confidence, ready to see each difficulty as an opportunity to strengthen his faith and benefit from divine mercy. So La Hawla wa la Quwwata illa Billah is not limited to a simple act of recitation, but becomes a true spiritual tool, allowing one to find peace, strength, and clarity in all aspects of life. It reminds us that true power lies in submission to Allah, and that everything is in His hands to guide, protect, and facilitate our lives. This text beautifully highlights the many spiritual and practical benefits associated with reciting La Hawla wa la Quwwata illa Billah. This formula is not simply a reminder of the power of Allah, but it embodies a deep spiritual connection with Him. By invoking this formula, the believer recognizes his inability to accomplish anything without divine help and guidance. This helps cultivate a humility and submission that brings inner peace and the strength necessary to face life's challenges. One of the essential aspects of La Hawla wa la Quwwata illa Billah is its ability to dispel anxiety and calm the mind. When we feel pressure or uncertainty, this formula becomes a powerful way to remember that strength and ability come not from ourselves, but from Allah. This reduces fear of failure and anxiety and allows you to approach every situation with confidence. The importance of this formula does not stop there. It also makes tasks easier, especially when they seem beyond our abilities. By reciting it, the believer seeks Allah's blessing, asking for His assistance in making the impossible possible. This not only offers spiritual support, but also real emotional comfort, strengthening motivation and determination. Finally, as the text pointed out, La Hawla wa la Quwwata illa Billah is a true spiritual treasure, a way to nourish faith, strengthen gratitude to Allah, and find a balance between work, challenges, and inner peace. By integrating this formula into our daily lives, we remember that whatever difficulties we face, everything is under the absolute control of Allah, and it is He who guides us towards success. Amen.